The plenary session is a little bit different, I think. We tried to make it different from last year. Last year we had a plenary session where everybody introduced themselves, and that already takes quite a long time. And yeah, by the time you come at the end of all the participants, it was almost, the time was almost up. What we try to do this year is to keep that very short and let people simply say who they are and where they work, and that's it, and then no, summary of your curriculum. On the other hand, another difference that we try to have this year is, while very often these plenary sessions, if you have authorities being invited and you have industry invited, different industries, so pharma, the medtech and the IVD industry, then it risks sometimes to be the opportunity to tell all your pain points to the regulators, to the authorities. And the poor authorities are sitting there and they have to deal with all these problems. They know that there are pain points in the process and that there are difficulties sometimes. What we try to do this year is to do it different and to see whether we can get some positive sparks flying around, and hopefully then out of one of these sparks, through an interesting debate, you can create a small flame. And if you treat that flame in a nice way over time, you might even grow into a big flame and some good idea comes out. But it should be a positive thing. So we asked the regulators if they can start thinking of something that they would like to propose, and whatever it is, something, a change in a process or another approach that they learned from COVID-19, because COVID-19 has given them the opportunity to learn a lot about how you can sort of speed up things and do things differently maybe. And then the industry people will look at that, and instead of putting all your difficult challenges on the table, we try to do it in this way, to sort of in a collaborative way find something that we can commonly agree on that would be interesting to collaborate on and develop it into something in the future a little bit a better world, a better process for certain things. Well, I participated to the RAPS 2020 Convergence meeting in Europe virtually, so sitting on my office home chair in Switzerland. But the meeting was very well. I found it extremely good organized. I must say, technically, it went extremely smooth and it was very easy to follow. Of course, the upside is that you don't have to travel, and that 10 minutes after you have closed the session or you closed your day, you're back into your private environment, in your family, and you can dedicate your time there. So the upside is you don't lose time in travel, and the technology allows us to really be there when there is a good presentation, and even to have a chat box, and you can even interactively discuss. The downside is that you don't see people, and so the networking is a little bit less effective. Or normally people connect when there is a little emotion. You have a coffee together, you have a joke together, you have a laugh, you talk about something, they will remember that. That's more difficult to achieve if you send them an email, because there come so many emails a day. The difficulty that when you have a new regulation for the medical devices and for the IVD, then of course there are a lot of questions that remain open for people. How do we do this? How can we comply with this? They understand the text, but they still understand that why they do it and what they need to do, but how to do it is always the big question. So what we do hope is that this conference gives, to some extent, the opportunity to the speakers to clarify certain things, to provide them, because of course you invite a lot of experts, and some of them have been thinking deeply about some of these questions, not the whole MDR, but they have been focusing on one or two questions, and then they present their thoughts and their guidance on that. That can be extremely helpful for the participants. And whether this is, for example, how do you approach clinical evidence? How do you make use of real-world data today instead of clinical trials, or how do you combine that? How do you deal with the combination products? how does the pharma industry, how are they going to deal with combination products in light of Article 117, which obliges them suddenly to talk to a notified body, which was never needed for them. They could use a pre-filled syringe as they wished. Now suddenly they need to know something about that syringe because they're going to fill it. This is all new, and I think it is very interesting that for the pharma, as well as the IVD and for the medical technologies, there are various speakers who are trying to dig into these challenges and questions and provide at least some guidance, maybe not necessarily always the holy grail or the final solution to everything. That's also difficult because the products are so different. So people need to do some thinking afterwards even, but they may get useful guidance and useful directions in which to look. I think the most important when you don't have a lot of experience or you're relatively junior in the role, in the job, and you come to this conference, that you very, very carefully go through the program. You carefully read the program and the summaries for each of the sessions so that you can really, you don't go into the program on day one and say, let me sit here and then that's it, and I let it come over me. I think it will be extremely important to selectively look at the program, not only in the track where you sort of belong. Maybe if you work in pharma, you think you are necessarily going only to look at pharma. Have a careful look on any of the other tracks, because the word convergence says it. The world is converging. The regulatory frameworks are converging, although it goes very slowly and it can never be 100% simply because the products are so different. But there are certain things that you can maybe, and you want maybe to hear in another track, which is not the track where you probably want to spend 80% of your time. But the 20% you might want to spend in some selected sessions outside your probably preferred track. That's my main recommendation, because there's a lot of presentations, there are a lot of sessions, there are a lot of good speakers, and there's a lot you can learn within your track already. But have a look if you still see something outside your track. Maybe you're working in combination products, maybe you're working on, let's call it personalized medicine, and then personalized medicine is often also combined with medical technology. Maybe you want to listen to some other parts of the different tracks to complete your knowledge and your, let's say to take more out of the conference than just sit in one track the whole 3 days.